Welcome back to another simple but not basic video. First things first, I wouldn't consider any of the fragrances I'm going to share with you today to be expensive. However, they're not cheap either. Many people seem to want the highest quality for the lowest price. And honestly, I think that's why cologne fragrances are so huge these days. People are going in with this hope, with this wish that they're going to spend a small amount of money and get back the high quality thing that cologne is trying to copy. However, I think many of you guys who have tried a lot of colognes can attest that colognes seldom live up to the quality that you're hoping for. And for some of you guys, that's fine. You spent 30 bucks, that's all you spent, you're good. But some of you, I know, get disappointed. You're like, this thing kind of smells like $30. That's a bummer. In perfumery, sometimes you actually do get what you pay for. Sometimes. Nonetheless, the fragrances I'm going to share with you today provide fantastic value when it comes to quality versus price. In my experience, they all punch above their weight. Now, as per the title, they will be paired to similar, more popular fragrances on the market, but they are not clones. Some of them may have inadvertent relation. It might be a coincidence, while some might be more intentionally inspired, but are actually seeking to refine rather than copy. Links to everything I'm going to talk about will be down in the description, so let's dive right into it. First fragrance up here is one you know you might not love. I love this one, and a lot of people do, but there's many who don't. It's Ganymede from Marc-Antoine Bois. I think this is a fantastic fragrance for the money you pay, especially on discounters. You can find this for good prices, and the fragrance that you actually get, the scent experience, the performance, all things considered, is top notch. That being said, it may not be everyone's taste. This stuff is pretty particular, very sharp, metallic, has this suede leather feel that's very luxurious, but there's this weird curry note. That curry note comes from the Immortelle, and that's what might rub some people the wrong way. To some people, this just smells weird. Now, if you're looking for something that smells similar to Ganymede, was perfumed by the same perfumer, and honestly might even be a little bit more approachable, and will definitely cost you less money to purchase, then check out Essential Parfum Bois Imperial, once again perfumed by Quentin Biche, who perfumed Ganymede. And Bois Imperial is not identical to Ganymede. I wouldn't even say it's a brother to Ganymede. It's more like a cousin. There's a similar type of almost mineral-like freshness that you get out of Ganymede, but here it is not metallic and sharp at all. It's actually more woody, as per the name. It's a dry, fresh, clean woodiness, a little bit of an herbal basil feel to it, just adding a touch of a spice, a touch of a green feel, but very, very subtle. Maybe some other spices in there and some musky woods that kind of just envelop the scent. It's overall a very simple scent profile, but it's definitive. It smells like itself in addition to maybe smelling like Ganymede a little bit. And it's super versatile. Performs pretty well, at least in my experience. Of course, yours may vary. I think the value is fantastic here. So if you haven't tried this one yet, maybe give it a shot. I know they do samples. I'll link to what I can find down below. That is from Essential Parfum Bois Imperial. Up next is a fragrance I also really enjoy, and this is one that is even more popular than Ganymede. You probably have this, you've probably tried it, you most likely at least like it, and that is Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum. Now, to be honest with you, I don't own this fragrance. I used to. I owned it years ago. I really enjoyed it. I just got a little bored with it and I sold it off. But I do have the Parfum, which we can kind of put in its place because it's the same DNA, but not exactly the same type of scent behavior and scent function, at least for me and my wearing. So the fragrance I'm going to talk about as an alternative is more related to the eau de parfum than it is the parfum, and that fragrance is Boucheron Singulier. And first of all, Chanel, you know this fragrance. It's blue, it's fresh, it has an almost shower gel clean feel, fresh out the shower, very contemporary, modern man smell. Nothing wrong with it. Beautiful depth, beautiful quality, just very expensive, especially for a designer fragrance. As you might already know with Chanel, they keep a pretty tight hold on their distribution, so you're not going to find Chanel popping up on a bunch of discounters for lower prices than retail. So if you want an alternative to that is very inexpensive, I think I got this from FragBuy for less than 40, maybe even less than 30 bucks. I can't remember, it's been some months now, but this fragrance is in the vein of Bleu de Chanel. It is following kind of in its shadow, but it's not exactly that. It is a little bit of its own thing. It does achieve a similar result in a different way. It is still fresh, clean. It does still smell blue. There's something warm and smooth about it, similar to the Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum feel, The smoothness, I think, is what really makes this DNA stand out. And this kind of has that. Some people like to think in percentages. It's hard to really objectively quantify how close a fragrance is to another fragrance by way of a percentage. But if my summation of that will help you, I would say this is about 70% similar to Bleu de Chanel. It is a little bit of a departure. It's hard to really explain. This is different from that. These things are not the same if we're going to dissect the two of them and compare. But when you put them side by side, you realize, okay, yeah, I can tell that they're different. It's just a really high quality alternative that you can get at a ridiculous price that does perform pretty well. I do believe it's also an eau de parfum, so it kind of performs like one in a similar way to Bleu de Chanel eau de parfum. It has a richness and a depth to it while still maintaining a nice clean freshness. It's a perfectly versatile fragrance you could wear for all the same occasions you would wear Bleu de Chanel. So that would be my alternative to Bleu de Chanel. That's Boucheron Singulier. Now I know you know these fragrances: Parfum Marley, Layton, Xerjoff, Naxos. I don't need to say a single word about what these smell like. You've seen them talked about so much from other people and even from myself. They're great fragrances. I do enjoy them. I'm glad I have them and I wear them from time to time. But when it comes to recommendations, you don't need these as recommendations from me because they've been recommended to death. We know everything there is to know about these fragrances. So I think it's easy for all of us to say, well, what alternatives do we have to these great fragrances that are not exactly clones, but are still high quality and still affordable / inexpensive? Well, a brand that I've talked about several times on this channel is called Niche for All. They're based out of Sweden, and their whole model is based around the name, bringing niche and bringing it down to the masses, making it more accessible. And honestly, my first connotations with Niche for All were kind of negative because I'm not crazy about clones. I never really have been, and I just assumed they were doing what everyone else is doing, just reverse engineering popular fragrances using cheap ingredients, bottling them up and putting them out there at a lower price. But what I came to realize in kind of revisiting Niche for All is that they don't just clone. They're not just out here copying. They are modeling after popular DNAs and scent profiles, but they are actually seeking to refine, to twist, to even improve. For example, they've sent me Vanilla Oud and Honey Tobacco, which I think they sent these to me a couple years ago. I gave them some wearing back then. I enjoyed them, but I was still kind of closed-minded in my thinking. But I've come back around in the past few months and realized they've done something really special here. First of all, one of the reasons why their fragrances are so inexpensive, as you see here on screen, is that they control the entire process, which I appreciate. Not every brand has the means to do that, but they control production, they control all the purchasing, all the packaging, all the transporting, they do all their own sourcing. So everything is in-house. There's no middlemen, so they can afford to have a lower margin with their products, which is cool. And they're transparent about that on their website. Now, in particular with these two fragrances, which again are modeled after popular ones, Vanilla Oud, which I actually just wore the other day and got a great compliment on at a cafe, is based on Layton. And if you are someone who doesn't like the geranium in Layton, some people say Layton has this Vicks Vapor Rub feel to it. This does not have that, not even an ambiguous version of it. It is still a little aromatic and fresh, but still sweet and spicy and warm and attractive. It's just the whole Layton DNA kind of smoothed out, that kind of cut off the rough edges of it and maybe condensed it even more. It does wear a little linear on my skin, but it stays smooth all the way throughout. And as you can see by the name, they put oud in here, which is almost like blending it with the exclusive version of it. So it does have a darker depth to it, but it doesn't smell funky or dirty or as edgy as exclusive can be. So they've found this really interesting medium that kind of almost does it its own way. Same with Honey Tobacco. I do like Naxos. I can't say I am crazy about Naxos like some people are. Some people think it's God's gift to the world, and I think it's a good fragrance. I understand why people enjoy it. I like Naxos more as it starts to dry down. The opening is a little bit medicinal to me, kind of sickly in a way, kind of household cleaner vibes. And it's not the most off-putting, but it's not my favorite. It is a sweet lemon, honey, fresh lavender tobacco. Really nice stuff. And if you don't like that medicinal feeling that I described about Naxos, then I think you might dig Honey Tobacco. Once again, that is gone. It really refines it, smooths it out, tones down that lavender lemon combo so it doesn't smell like pledge or anything. The tobacco is still sweet and warm, spicy and just attractive. Now, kind of like Vanilla Oud, I wouldn't say it has the same level of dimensionality as Naxos. You don't get these layers that overlap with one another and present this very deep experience. Again, this is a little bit more linear, a little bit more condensed, but still smooth, beautiful quality. Everything blends well together and it's very enjoyable. So you do with that what you will. Real quick, I did mean to mention this. Something that Niche for All also does that I really appreciate is that they make fragrances modeled after not mainstream fragrances, not stuff that you've heard of a lot or even tried. This one, for example, Amber Vetiver, is based around Clive Christian's Rococo Immortelle. Have you tried that?
Maybe like 3 of you.
I didn't even know that fragrance existed until I tried this, and it's lovely. It smells like a warm, marginally sweet amber with the dry, woody vetiver, slightly bitter, just a great blend, great quality. Again, doesn't change a whole lot on the skin, but really pleasant, but you'll have to be the judge of that. Let me know if you've tried any fragrances from Niche for All. They're going to be linked down in the description. Up next is a fragrance I don't have. I've had decants of it. I enjoy it. It's super popular, very well loved, but I just never came around to buying it. That is YSL Tuxedo. I haven't spent a ton of time with it, so I can't speak on it super in depth from personal experience, but I know it is this sweet, warm, resinous patchouli fragrance that smells masculine. It smells refined. It smells very evening. There's also something alluring about it. And again, popular for a great reason. But Moustache from Rochas, which I've talked about many times on this channel, I think is the best alternative to that fragrance that is not a clone. Now, why does this smell similar to Tuxedo? I don't know. All we can do is speculate. It could be a coincidence. It may not be. Who knows? But what matters is it smells phenomenal for the price. I cannot believe how little money you can pay at the discount websites for a full 75 milliliter bottle. It's kind of criminal, but I'm not mad. It does take that similar vibe, that sweet, almost benzoin, vanilla type of balsamic resinous feel, kind of damp and earthy with patchouli. There is a little bit of a freshness to it, which keeps it from being too dense and too rich, something that you could still wear in a variety of situations. Maybe not the hottest summer day, but it can live with some warmth because it does have a little bit of an aromatic quality. It has some transparency. It performs perfectly for this type of scent profile. It is present, it hovers, it does move around the room a little bit, but it will not choke people. It will not fill a room unless you're just crazy with your sprays and just very inconsiderate of others. But I know you guys aren't like that. Just really dapper, very gentlemanly stuff. That is Moustache from Rochas, a fantastic alternative that offers great value. And finally, a beloved fragrance and scent DNA in general from the house of Roja Parfum. This fragrance is known as Enigma, also Creation E, depending on where you are in the world. I don't have it in its original form, which I think is a Parfum these days, but I do have the Parfum Cologne version, which is, again, the same profile, just maybe freshened up, a little bit brighter on the top notes. Citruses are more pronounced. It still has the richness and the depth, but just maybe not quite as dense as the Parfum version. This is known as kind of like a cognac or whiskey and coke. It is sweet. There's lots of benzoin in here, similar to the Rochas, bringing this sparkling, resinous, vanillic quality. It does have a strong boozy nuance to it, so it's kind of like a sparkling dark liquor cocktail. Smells really classy. It's also very peculiar. Not everyone's gonna love it because it's specific. It is its own DNA. It is its own personality, and it may not jive with everyone, and that's okay. I think it's a solid scent. It's not my favorite from the house, but it's really good. And it's also expensive because it's Roja Parfum. We all know that. And I think a fragrance that does not copy this, it does not clone it. I don't even know if it was necessarily inspired, but it does smell a little similar. It's from Day 3 Fragrances. This is one of their older bottles, so their new bottles will look different from this. This is called Ámbar Dominicano. This is my favorite from the house that I've tried, and it features a similar combination of elements coming together. A sweet, resinous, vanillic feel that is warm and inviting and just rich. There is an actual Coca-Cola accord in here with some lime, some rum, a honeyed feel in there, an earthiness. It's once again similar to the Roja, but in a way, just more. There's more going on here. It is almost more complex, more dimension, just more oomph to it, at least compared to the Parfum Cologne. Just a beautiful scent profile for the fall and winter and even the spring. Definitely something that leans evening. And as you'll see on the website, this fragrance in its full bottle form is not cheap. As I said at the beginning of the video, I think it's like over 150 bucks, but compared to the market today, that is a fantastic deal. And they even have a 10 milliliter size for much less if it is a problem for you to get that larger size. And I think you should opt for the 10 mil anyway, just because don't pay a higher price for more fragrance that you may not use because you don't like it. So you know how it goes. I talk about this stuff all the time. Let me know if you enjoyed this one from Day 3 Fragrances. I'm gonna have a link down below. I don't get any kind of kickback or anything with this one. I just like what they're doing. Great quality stuff, worth checking out. All right, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And once again, links to everything in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.